is going.
Yep.
So, I'd like to start with Chapter 1, Personal Introduction and Identity. For the first question, can you introduce yourself? Who are you and how would you describe yourself?
Hello, my name is Erroll Kinistino. I'm from the Ochapois First Nation. I'm a Soto Nakaway man growing up on a Cree reserve, and yeah, I'm a member of the Kateak group out there, which is the knowledge keepers, I guess, and seniors or elders. Yep. Egsi, Egsi, which means yeah.
What languages do you speak and how important is language in your life?
I, although I'm not Nakaway, Nishnabek is I I didn't learn to speak it when I was young, um, mainly because my parents were in residential school and they went through a process of although they were quite fluent in Michik, my mother's side, a bit Cree. My dad was Anishinaabe Soto, knock away from Little Bone area and then Shiship Reserve. But they were reprimanded severely when they were in residential school. So, in order for us to not go through this belittlement and punishment, they thought that no, we're not going to teach our kids very much of the language. So I actually didn't learn it fluently at all, except for later on in my life when I went to university here. Actually, actually through the Saskatchewan Indian Federated College, and took an introduction to Ojibwe, Soto, and learned a little bit of kindergarten language actually. Who am I? What am I? And for example, I'd say Ani Joaquin, I said, which is like, how are you? And Kan Kutno, Kan, which means I'm okay. And Kindash, what about you then? So I learned little snippets, but that's just words, you know. I learned other stuff from being in life, you know, going attending some ceremonies and listening to the elders that spoke, you know, Soto at the pipe ceremonies and saying the prayers and stuff like that. So even though those words were coming to me and I didn't understand them, I could feel their energy and how important the language, you know, the recovery and the relearning it, the resurgence of. That's one of the reasons that the First Nation University of Canada is unique, because they have languages here. You know, they teach Nakota and different dialects of Cree. I think they have the Solomon Rat here, who's a doctor now and wrote several books in Cree, and I think that it's important that we have you know, institutions like this that perpetuate the importance of language, because a lot of it there's teachings, you know, in the language that you don't get if you don't, you know, endeavor to learn it. Yeah. For example, my father taught me at least a few words in Anishinaabe. Mate said, "Iche manto," which is the Great Spirit. Kakinage go for everything that we are. It's like saying Wakotuan or Mitakwe in Lakota or Lakota, for everything that's all the things we're related to, life, plants, animals, you know, beings, other relatives, and the universe, the galaxy. You know, Kakinage go, it's huge. And Winisising, which is like the food we have to eat, and the water we have to drink. And Minikwe, I hike. So that's about the core of my language is a prayer like that. I try to say it regularly, daily, and it helps me a lot. Exit.
How did you first learn about traditional teachings?
Um, Actually, when I was a young man, I was actually an older young man in my 20s when this resurgence of the Red Power movement swept the nation. 1972, 73 was I was 20 years old, and there was a lot of activity in the Vancouver and the bigger cities like Minneapolis and St. Paul and San Francisco, where there was a lot of indigenous people, be they treaties or maybe Michif, moved into the cities because of the high unemployment rates in the First Nation communities. So in those cities, they were being mistreated by the police, by housing, all the social problems that are, when you're ghettoized and when you're living in poverty, you tend to live in social conditions that aren't really that good, like overcrowding in houses and underemployment and stuff like that. So there was a resurgence of what are our rights. The youth were learning about this through the Saskatchewan Native Youth Movement, through the Red Power movement in Vancouver, through the American Indian movement. There was a question to the leadership and to society at large. Why have you stolen our land? Why have you stolen our language? Why have you colonialized us? So there was a really radical, in a sense, but a good movement to actually question society, and I think that's one of the reasons that I saw the importance of becoming involved, as not so much as an activist, but as an inquisitive person that wanted to know, like a journalist. The journalist's job is not to go and be on one side; it's go and find out what the facts are, and then let the readership or whoever learn to make up their own minds.
To speak objectively.
Yeah.
Who were the biggest influences in your cultural journey?
I think there was a number of them. In 1979 or 77, I was in Saskatoon, and there was a youth movement up there at the Friendship Center, and the leadership that we had at the time, the mentors we had, the elders was Vicky Wilson, Bill Wilson, the Campos, the Traches. They were Métis people, elderly, but they worked out of the Friendship Center, and they allowed us to, as youth, to organize a group and have weekly meetings, and we'd also have there was a boxing club or recreational activities where we attended powwows and gatherings, and one of the gatherings we attended through Vicky Wilson and the youth group that she was working with was to attend the ecumenical conference out in Morley, Alberta, where they had a number of really awesome elders and knowledge keepers come from across Turtle Island, as you call it, to teach there. They introduce you to the ceremonies, like for example, the shaking tent, or they even had access to the Native American church philosophy, the peyote ceremonies, the different types of philosophies that they brought to the gathering. I think there was a Banale from the Navajo tribe that came in, and he had prophecies and told those prophecies in storytelling and format. So it sort of turned you on to, wow, even though we've been colonialized over the past few years, we sure should appreciate the elders that still carry that knowledge and bring that knowledge to us through ceremonies and through cultural gatherings as such. So I think a step further when I looked at an organization called One Sky out in Saskatoon. They're an activist group that taught, what are your rights as a human being, etc. What are human rights? What are rental rights and all that stuff. So I kind of gravitated to them because they actually they were available to us. They offered a listening ear. One Sky was their group, and I read in their newspaper about a conference that was happening and it said a big long title, the World Indigenous Conference in Discrimination Towards the People in the Western Hemisphere, which is like really North and South America, Turtle Island and also South America. And it was being held in Geneva, Switzerland. And all the delegates that wanted to go could attend. But there were stipulations when I did learn when I went there. I figured, well, I'd like to do that. I need to get a passport. I need to find out when the dates are. I need to raise money to get there, and I went as a sole person. And I figured, I'm just going to take a chance and go and find out what this is all about. And it was one of the biggest learning experiences I had. For example, I had traveled with George Erasmus, who was a young man at the time working for the Tree of Peace out of Yukon Territories or what, the Northwest Territories. He was the executive director or communications officer there, but he was also at this conference, and he didn't speak at the conference per se, but there was a tour that went on all through Europe, that many cities that we volunteered to go on, and the trains that would go from Hamburg to Dusseldorf or Stuttgart, these different places, we'd have an hour or so to sit, and he'd teach me, do you know anything about self-determination? I'll tell you what it is. Do you know anything about self-government? Do you know anything about Indian government? Do you know anything about sovereignty? So I got introduced when I was 20 years old to these concepts that were foreign to me, but really underlyingly that they were being discussed at the Western Hemisphere, the conference on discrimination towards the people in the Western Hemisphere, which included people from Brazil, Peru, and North American Indians, including the young people that participated in the American Indian movement, etc., and then all the different groups that sprung up from South America, and they were invited by a group of youth and activity people that wanted to hear about them, called the Gesellschaft in Switzerland and in Germany, and they set up many speaking engagements there, and I had the opportunity to sing at the drum and to learn on the fly, and also to travel with the medicine man, Philip Deere, out of Oklahoma. I didn't realize at the time how important this man was to the indigenous movement, but he looked straight out of the movies, like Oklahoma Indians, or I think it was called. There was a new movie that came out. It was all about these rich Indians out in Oklahoma, and they carry a blanket and have like nice big black hats and their moccasins and their pipe, and they're dirt rich Indians, and he was one of them. He was a Cherokee Indian from Oklahoma. So I had a chance to travel with him for about a couple weeks in Europe, and that was one of the people that I wanted to acknowledge. I also went to a ceremony there up in the Swiss Alps, of all things. We had a sweat ceremony there, asking the Creator to be with us. So I had a lot of experience as a young man that kind of guided my later on journey in life as dabbling in journalism and communications and being a spokesman for youth.
Speaking of that, the sweat lodge in the Swiss Alps, what kind of ceremonies have you participated in or held?
I've been to. I don't participate in rain dance, sun dance, but when I was 3 years old, they had the last rain dance in our community on Ochapois Nation, and I remember clear as day being there, but I didn't know all the, the protocol that was going on, but I was wondering how come the grandmothers are crying, and I could hear this whistle blowing. So as a 3-year-old, I went to the lodge, looked in there, and they were dancing, and they were singing, and they were blowing their whistle to the nest. It's called the Wet'suwet'en, the nest that goes up. And later on, I realized that they were praying for the future, the people that aren't here yet, like you or or your relatives. They're praying for the future, and they're also crying. And I put two and two together. Why are they crying? Is somebody hurting them? No, they're crying for pity. That we have future, like a good life, and that's one of the things. Is this building here? This wasn't even thought about back then, but because of the need for language, the resurgence in education, our people put together their heads and said, well, we got to put a building here and make a place where you can learn about your culture and language and ceremony and be introduced to the things that were supposedly outlawed back during the residential school period. And I went to a couple other ceremonies, a lot of sweat lodges, and I always learn from participating in them, and I've been honored to splash the rocks and say the prayers and sing in there. So it really helps me a lot to get in touch with my native spirituality and feel good. It's like being reborn again and being a new person and having this new life to share with other people. And I do powwows, which is like a ceremony, but it's grown into like a little bit bigger thing than we realize as the powwow ceremonies now. I participate in the grass dance, and ever since I was younger, I was always intrigued by the drums. Our parents they never really danced or sang, but they would take us to Standing Buffalo Powwow every year, and we would watch. I'd hear the drums and hear the singing, and then at the end of the night, we would dance the kahumni, the sidestep, and we participate in dancing that way. Pretty soon, we started getting involved my sister started dancing traditional, and my other sister wanted to go jingle, and I ended up being a traditional dancer and a fancy dancer, and finally a grass dancer. So I take those quite seriously, and I enjoy participating in those ceremonies with respect, and I hope that in the future that those still carry on and they grow and it just still be a part of our family or part of our ways of doing things. Exit.
Would you say these times in your life influenced you to be as culturally involved as you are?
Oh, how could it not be? You know, it's like osmosis. Like it's a technical word for a plant growing somewhere, and it just you go where the sun goes, and you know like you're growing. So as a human being, uh, I can imagine if there was no ceremonies or no cultural activities that I would have a really hard time, you know, expressing that. So I think that it's important that, for example, like the First Nation University of Canada is hosting I think it's a 30th or 40th powwow here this year, and although it might not seem like a big thing to people that just want to show up and eat popcorn and whatever, it's still there. If you want to hear the singing, if you want to hear the stories, if you want to participate in the pipe ceremonies that go on there, there's ways you can do that, and it's important that we have access to those and that they're not outlawed, that but they've also have grown, and I don't think they'll stop, really.
Where have you found life lessons, healing, and strength in your experiences? Could you share a specific story that shaped you?
Uh, I think one of the biggest things I think that I'm missing out on is that I have not attended a ceremony where you get a spirit name, um, and it may soon become. And in doing that, someone has to ask you. You got to come to the lodge, bring the cloth, bring the food, make a feast, and then they'll tell you. They'll see this color that you have, this maybe thunderbird or buffalo or an animal spirit that you might have, or and it might be a rain, or it might be water or an entity, and then you carry that name. Uh, at at this point in my life, I am honored with the name Kinistino. Nistino means one, Biak, Niso, Nisto. Three. Three of us is what that name means. Kinistino. 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's the spirit name that I carry because it's our family name. And it could be interpreted, linguistically, whatever. Because of the three, it's the Trinity. The Father, Kipapa, Negosis, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Kichemanto. Like, I don't think I could ask for anything more than honorable to carry that name as a family name. But there's a corollary to this spirit name that is waiting, and perhaps when for not too long that it'll come to me, and I will grow. Yeah. Cisco.
Would you like to? What challenges did you face in preserving or practicing traditional knowledge?
I think it depends on my age. I think when I was younger, living in my in a off reserve home, a boarding home, attending school, there was not any access to any Aboriginal Indigenous studies at all. So, but my learning was still, piqued by other things. I had a social studies class that, as well as science, and I didn't really gravitate to science as much, but to writing and also like reading literature, being exposed to the history of English lit, and going through the Ulysses and the Iliad. Those were really the pinnacle of English, the language, and then they were dabbled into French a little bit. 2 years, they were learning another language in French. But one of the classes that I did take as a supplement was family functions, which was a half a credit, and you learned how, in a sense, to get in touch with your feelings, or what was your role as an adolescent and as a young man growing up, existing within a family. So that was kind of interesting for me, and I took it as an easy credit, really. And the other half of that was home economics. You can cook, or you can make a meal, or that kind of thing. And so I think that those, even though I was introduced to those subjects, I still had this inquisitiveness to get through the class, to do what they wanted, to pass a mark and be able to get your grade 12 matriculation, as they say, and I graduated with the grade 12 matric in way back in 1971, and it didn't actually take one bit of iota of Aboriginal studies. I think in the history book they maybe mentioned Louis Riel and the Aboriginals in one paragraph or so. So there wasn't the detail that there is now. There wasn't access to learning things about Every Child Matters, or Orange Day, or residential schools. Not like there is today. There was no back to the land movement where you could go skin a deer, or those kind of things that are kind of popular today. And whether it's it seems like, to me, it's a bit of a fad, but yet at the same time it's a good fad. Like how often you get a chance to eat a heart or a liver, out of a buffalo. These days you can do that back home in schools, that they have access to it. Skin the buffalo and do the hide, and make sinew, or make a drum. Those kind of things.
What are some teachings or values that have guided you in life?
I think, to be a good person, you have to function with honesty, you have to function with caring about people. You have to function with being able to feel equal with other people, whether that be the opposite sex, or to have respect and honor those roundabout. Those are the 7 teachings of that we learn through humanness. And if you carry those teachings within you, you're gonna really be a well-liked person. You're gonna have a chance to grow and show your growth, and not just memorize it, but actually put put those learnings into fruition. Like, for example, to love somebody, to love music, to love the way you are as a human being, to be look after your hygiene, look after your cleanliness, look after your the roles that you have to play, whether it's doing your homework or participating in recreation activities and doing things outside of the academia. You become a rounded person, and like, I think it's there's a power in being good and learning what's good and bad, and make to know the difference. As human beings, we differ from animals like that. For example, an animal will be just goes by instinct. I'm hungry, gotta eat. But I gotta survive. They'll fight, grab. But human beings have the reason to think. If I share this food, or if I wait to maybe make this food, I can give it to my family. I can, I think animals do that as well, but they're a little bit less. They're a little less use their brain and just use their instincts. So I think that there's a big difference between our power of reasoning. Sometimes it can stifle us if we don't have that a bit of a balance and a choice.
How do you see these teachings benefiting Indigenous youth today?
In a perfect world, we wouldn't have susceptibility to addictions and delinquency if we had these teachings and had ways of putting them into effect. And that comes with consequences. There's sometimes our elders are very strict. For example, when you go to a feast, and I think it was my great grandfather named George Ponikapo from the Sakonay First Nation would scold people and said, the food is out there, and you can't taste it until we're ready. So, but other people will find out they want to eat right away. They're hungry and they don't want to hear the prayers. They don't want to. But there's protocols, and one of them was also, I think I saw this on Facebook of all things, that you do not put your food away until a pipe is put down, until a pipe comes apart, and say, oh, that's where you can put your food away, because roundaboutly you're calling the spirits to come and sit with you, to come and sit and eat. And if you're in a hurry and you want to get this feast done and you want to go to bingo or the casino, and you're there to just eat and run and start putting your stuff in the bag, you're going to get scolded. You're going to get told there's protocol. So I think that, I don't know if that answers your question, but we have rules to follow and to learn and to carry out, and also to explain the reason why they do those things. For example, as a child, when I was 3 years old at a Sundance, I seen the cake come out. The cake was just nice and looked great, and as a child, and there was these little silver balls on top of it. I wanted to eat that, but my grandmother slapped my hand. No, sit. You have to have the rabbit. You have to have the meat. You have to have the rice and the other stuff and some of the bannock before you can have the cake. So there's protocol, and you have to wait till the elders say the prayers, and so you learn a bit about patience, and you learn that you're having a feast wasn't just to eat. It's a spiritual thing that goes on, and the teachings that come with it are incredible. Yep. Exit.
What advice would you give to young people who want to learn more about their Cree culture and traditions?
I think attending and respecting the elders, the teachings, the teachers that come. Sometimes they're not really old, but they know the songs, and they put on workshops. For example, I went to a workshop on how to learn to make a drum, and it took about 4 days, and we didn't have to kill the animal or shoot the animal because the hides were brought there, and they're soaked in a big, some water, and they're made pliable, and then you trace the thing out where you want to cut, and you cut it a little bit bigger, and then you had the wooden things around like this to make the thing, and the nails that go in there, and then the hide to stretch out the back. You make the back out of a star blanket or a dream catcher thing at the back, and that's just the first day. The second day you finish it. The third day you let it dry, and the fourth day your drum should be ready. And your first drum is a drum that's a gift to you for making it, but in protocol you're supposed to give that drum away. Your first drum could be given to your friend of yours or somebody else that you think that could really utilize this drum, and it's not there for your own possession. So there's a lot of teachings in there, and I think that out of respect for the teachings that come with those, you get to learn the style of drumming, the beat, and it's like, I guess I would equate it to going to a quilting bee. The stories that come with it are incredible, and the teachings that come with it in that process are something you can carry on for the rest of your life. And maybe you can become a teacher as well, whether you teach your grandchildren or your fellow members, and that way you carry on, and the teachings come through the teachers until you actually learn it, and then the teachings come alive again, and you can share it, and you can watch people grow, and you see their lights in their eyes, and their voice can sing, and you can feel their proudness, as they walk and say, this is something I've done, something I've learned, and something I'm willing to share. You see?
What keeps you going today? What continues to inspire you?
I think life is such a mystery, and it's at my age, it seems very short. I just turned 73, and I know for some people that is not old enough. I've met a 83 or 84-year-old today that just got out of the hospital, and he went there to get his knee repaired, and he's walking with a cane, but he gave me hope of saying, well, I've been through some medical difficulties in the last while, and I know that my time in this earth is not very long, and so I've learned to respect each day that I get as a gift, and in my world, I like to think of not worrying about too much stuff that I had done in the past or whatever, and didn't get a chance to do, or don't worry too much about what's going to happen tomorrow or the next year, because who knows, I might be missing out on today. So that the philosophy of giving yourself that day, the present today, is kind of a philosophy I like to live by, and just appreciate the day I get today, and live for the moment, live for the now.
Last question. If there's one lesson you'd like future generations to remember from this conversation, what would it be?
I think it's to respect people that are honorable enough to give you some tobacco. You know, it's a big thing, protocol, to be as honest and be as truthful as you can be. I'm not saying I'm the person that has all the answers. I have some of the answers, and I think to taking the time to be with family, to be with with each other, respecting that. You're going to school, you're taking class, and you've selected me, chosen me somehow to help you and assist. And I come in here today, so we made an arrangement to travel. I come 2.5 hours from my First Nation because I respect you, and I respect the education that you're going through. I respect that the classes that you're taking, and I know it's going to be all for the good, and I honor that. As much as I would, I just say I'm happy today that you honored me with considering that I have some knowledge to share with you, and that whatever you're going to do with this, that it be help. Maybe it'll help other people to discover themselves, or just get back on the way, the red road, and get back into walking with truth, walking in beauty, walking today. How do you say?
And you are?
My name is Erroll, Kinistino, three of us, Biak Nisto, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Kinistino, three of us. How do you say?